Hi, it's Julia. Friends, family, and clients all know that I love to research. When I get a hold of something, I like to dig in and really check it out. Recently, my interest has fallen on fresh milled flour. It started a few months ago when I watched a presentation by Becker of Bread Beckers. She's on YouTube, and the presentation is called Only Real Bread, Staff of Life. She goes into great detail and shares lots of information and stories about people and the health benefits they've found with switching over to fresh milled flour. Plus, she's pretty entertaining at times too. I do recommend watching that because she gives us so much information and explains it clearly. I found it very interesting. It got me curious enough to buy myself a grinding mill for grinding the flour. And then I bought wheat berries, kernels, whichever you want to call them. There are different types you can try and different recipes. You definitely get more flavor with the fresh milled flour. I've been slowly converting my main recipes, but I've been baking a long time and I've recognized that it's not a quick and easy flip over to just switch out all-purpose flour for the fresh milled whole grain flour. You have to adjust things a bit. That's why I so far prefer partially fresh milled. Hence the 2/3 fresh milled flour recipe I'm going to share with you. I use all-purpose organic flour along with fresh milled whole grain flour that I grind myself. In some recipes, half and half. In others, 2/3, and occasionally all fresh milled flour. Just a few of those so far. And this recipe is 2/3 fresh milled whole grain flour in a bread recipe. It works pretty well for me right now. Of course, you can always change things up and try things your own way. Part of the fun is switching in and out with different grains and seeing what flavors you prefer. So far, I like hard white for bread more than the hard red, but the hard red gives you a little more wheaty flavor. I often mix the two in bread, and then I'll throw in kamut, sometimes spelt. I love einkorn. It's softer wheat. I use that in other baked goods, but you can throw some einkorn in for sure. It has an amazing flavor. It's the original wheat, as they say. Some of the benefits you get from fresh milled flour is, first of all, much higher nutrition. As Sue Becker points out, the vitamins and minerals are oxidized very quickly after it's milled, within just a few days. It makes sense that our ancestors used to mill the flour and use it much faster. And then when we changed over to taking out the bran to make fluffy white flour, there were illnesses that started as a result of the missing vitamins and minerals. And then they had to add in some items to make it enriched. The benefits for many people are very, Sue Becker feels there's a lot of extra vitamin E, and a number of people reporting that they had warts disappear. And funnily enough, I had some small ones getting bigger and irritating on my hand, 5 of them, and they're all gone. I like that. Plus, using fresh milled whole grain flour does keep you regular and it fills you up more so you don't get hungry as quickly. It's fun to do from start to finish and have that finished bread come out, the wonderful fragrance and taste, and know that it's a healthier version. I've adapted to using a bread maker. I bought a Cuisinart Convection bread machine. I really like it. I've tried many different types and models and brands. This is the one I ended up liking the most. I'm an old potter and I used to ride horses as a kid. Pulling on those reins, equitation class, all of that has taken a toll on my wrists, my fingers, and my hands. So I love using the bread maker. It's nice. You just put the ingredients in the pan, you put it in there, and like magic, it comes out this beautiful little loaf smelling delicious. And it gives my hands a break, and that works for me. Now we'll get into the recipe. It's 250 mils of room temperature filtered water. That's slightly more than a cup. 1 tablespoon of dry milk powder, 1.5 tablespoons of avocado oil or another oil, 1 tablespoon of honey, 1.25 teaspoons of salt, 3 cups of flour that are made up of 2 cups of the fresh milled whole grain flour, which is a little more than 1.25 cups of kernels, wheat berries. I've used in this one hard white, hard red, and rye, but you can mix it up with any grains you like. 1.25 teaspoons of instant yeast, 1.25 teaspoons of sunflower lecithin, and that makes a 1.5 pound loaf. One other item I find on my machine, I have to use menu 1. I tried using menu 2, which is the whole wheat setting, and my breads kept collapsing. I couldn't figure out what was going on. Now, using menu 1 works just fine. One other note is of all the bread makers I've tried, they all seem to overbake it, at least in my mind. I can take it out much earlier. The bread doesn't dry out as much. And I check with the thermometer, and if it's done, I take it out earlier. If you want to see other recipes, I will probably be putting up more along the way for different foods as I'm experimenting, or different baked goods, or if it's a good recipe. I encourage you to try new things and explore. I attached photos and a little bit of video when I was making the bread. I hope you enjoy that and some fresh milled flour sometime soon. Bye-bye.
Out of all the ones I've tried, it's reliable and quiet and does a great job. Inside. Take it out. We're going to set up for making some bread. Okay, I'm about to put a 1.5 pound loaf mix into my Cuisinart Convection bread maker, which I'm very fond of. Now, this is about a 2/3 fresh milled flour bread recipe. There's 250 mils of room temperature filtered water, which is actually just a little more than 1 cup. 1 tablespoon of dry milk powder, 1.5 tablespoons of avocado oil, 1 tablespoon of honey, 1.25 teaspoons of salt, 3 cups of flour, and in that there's about 2 cups of fresh milled flour from about a little more than 1 1/3 cups of kernels. And this bread today is a mix of hard white, hard red, and rye. To that, I top up the rest of the flour with all-purpose organic flour, or I have some bread flour I was using up today. Now, to get to the 3 cups total. And then I add 1 1/4 teaspoons of instant yeast, 1 1/4 teaspoons of sunflower lecithin. I put that in the bread maker on menu 1, which is important. I discovered using the number 2 setting caused the bread to collapse. So I just used menu 1. And I set it on light crust and even the 1 pound loaf, because I find they tend to overbake. And I even remove it 25 to 28 minutes early. I stick my thermometer in and it's done. A lot of bread makers seem to overbake, in my mind anyway. I guess it depends on what you want in the crust, but I just find it dries it out too much. Okay, now I'm going to put it in the bread maker. Here's a glimpse of it mixing early on. An extra I like about the Cuisinart Convection bread maker is it actually sounds off when you have a chance to come and take the blade out and take it out, and you can see it down there on the counter. Gently push the bread around a little bit, and you're ready to go for it to rise, so then you don't have the full blade in your bread when you take it out. So that's what I've just done, and then I'm going to start it up again. I'm just going to check the temperature. Almost dropped the thermometer. It's done. It's all the way at 204. So I'm going to shut it off now. Looks good. This is, again, a 1.5 pound loaf of 2/3 fresh milled flour bread.